Hello, and welcome to the walkthrough of the new UKG pack in the All Bases Covered series. My name is Emilio. I wear many, not all, but many of the hats at Glitch Magic. And I just want to show you all the pieces of it so you know exactly what you're getting. It's much more than just samples. That's the short version of it, but I want to just walk you through all of it. So, as you would expect, there's going to be a one-shots folder inside the UKG folder. The pack itself is these two things. It's going to be a project file with a bunch of things inside it, and then all the samples, which are just wave files. So inside of that, you're going to have your one-shots, of course. So basses, claps, effects, hats, kick snares, textures, tones, all kinds of stuff. So, and this is all stuff that's going to be usable in any software you use, whether it's like Logic or Bitwig or Reason or, FL, of course. Like there's plenty to do just in the one-shots folder. And then to go past that, if you look into these two folders labeled by BPM, there's going to be 10 demo beats that we wrote. That obviously the full beat will be in there. If you want to just sample that or, write over the top of it, you're free to do that. Of course, it's all royalty free. But if you go into the stems and loops folder inside each of these, let me just drag that in so I could show you everything. Come right here. So you're going to have a couple of things going on. Number one, you're going to have all the individual parts. So if I just play back this, you have everything isolated and stemmed out for you. In some of this, like if you wanted like this clap jangle part, for example, you could easily just grab this and loop that, in one of your own beats. But then also there's a couple things there for just like quality of life. Like for example, we always would stem out a drums only loop. So if you listen to this, that's just the drums with none of the basses or melodic elements or effects. It's just drums. And then we have the reverse too. We'll have an effects bus. So this is just the weird stuff. No bass, no drums. Just kind of the like uncategorizable, like texture-y sorts of things that you. And again, like you might want to use this as it is, and just just drag this over and I meant to duplicate that. There we go. But yeah, you might want to just like loop this kind of as it is, or you could just grab a piece of it. You could do this and then maybe reverse it, see where that gets you. That kind of thing is always it's always pretty fun to do. But anyway, so that's what you get as far as like the stems and loops. We have that for all 10 of the demo beats. So that kind of multiplies what's available. And also there's a top loop for all these things. So again, no bass, no kicks, none of the low end stuff. That's just something you might be able to drag in as like another layer on top of a beat you already wrote to just, add some of that feel. But then also, okay, so now this is where it gets really fun for me. That's just the samples. Again, this whole folder of the beats and loops and all that and the one-shots, you can use that in any software you want as long as it plays back wave files, which is pretty much everything these days. But then also there's an Ableton project file. So if you wanted to just, if you open up the project file, you're going to have everything all in one big file. All the beats, all the presets, all the loops, like everything. But then because, some people's computers might not handle it, or that might be the ideal way you like to work, we have a folder for presets and a folder for drum racks. So let's see, we're working in beat 3 right here. So if we go to the third beat and we drag that onto a MIDI track, that'll open up. And then we're going to have a drum rack, right? So if we solo this guy, it's going back a little slower. Let's bring that up closer to the tempo. So yeah, you're going to get everything, right? So you're going to have the original MIDI, so you have this MIDI loop if you want to use it. And this is cool to explore too, because in pretty much all these, we took advantage of Ableton's chance operations. So There's a lot of times where the MIDI isn't going to play back at exactly the same velocity all the time. It's going to be within a range to help just add some life to things so it doesn't sound so static and programmed. And there's also going to be some chance elements. So for example, certain hi-hat elements, more repetitive stuff, a lot of those notes might not play back 100% of the time. It might be like an 80% probability that that note triggers. And again, that's just to give it some more life and a more dynamic nature. So it's a little different every time when you play back the MIDI loop as opposed to an audio loop, which will be exactly the same every time. So that's what's going on in the MIDI side of this, which is interesting. But then also, all the sounds are built with stock Ableton. So there's nothing in here that you can't adjust or play around with or bring into your own projects, and most importantly, learn from. So for example, if you're like, hey, how's this 808 thing working? You just click on the pad, you can see the whole thing, right? So we have a sampler, you see how it's set up and how it's kind of looped inside the sampler. You can see that there's some pitch and oscillator things going on. There's some modulation things going on. And then also if there's like an effects chain behind it, you can see all that. So you can see exactly how we were able to get a certain sound from our starting sample, which sometimes can be pretty different. It can be, there can be a lot of processing going on that helps us get to a certain sound. And again, you can click around and explore this stuff to see for yourself. And then the other thing that's kind of interesting is there's like a whole other sample pack in here. So you can see that we have a kick drum sound. All right, so we did a little bit with the simpler, and there's an EQ after it. But you might be saying, well, where is this coming from? Well, if you go again into the Ableton project folder, which again, you can do this in any software. It doesn't matter if you use Ableton. Go into the samples, and then under the there's going to be an imported and a process folder. Go under imported, and you have this whole other folder. And those were our starting samples. So basically, we made a sample pack to make the sample pack. We made all these sounds first, then did all the sound design inside of Ableton drum racks and our presets and everything. And that's what we used to write all the demo beats. So you're not just getting everything, you scroll down, everything in this UKG folder with the stems and the one-shots. You're also getting our starting samples. Which again, hopefully you can find some inspiration in this by just exploring how we did the sound design with these starting samples, and then incorporate that into your own stuff. Because part of the philosophy here is we think you should learn something from the sample pack. It shouldn't just be like, oh, here's some sounds and good luck. So it's to inspire, but also to inspire some learning and innovation on top of, just writing music and doing what a music producer does. But anyway, so moving on. So you have all that. You have all these drum racks you get to play with. Then there's a presets folder. Because some of these sounds, like for example, let's try this melody free run preset. Let me drag that in, see what's going on here. And let me turn my keyboard on so I can play. If we open this up and then arm it. It's got a solo, unsolo, the other track. So you can see here, you can play this guy too as just like a keyboard instrument. And of course, again, it's all stock Ableton, so you can see the whole chain, how it's all working. We have our starting sample, then we have some LFO, some EQ, some delay, and then this arpeggiator, which is controlling how it's triggered. And that's the case for all these things, So like again, if I wanted to open up this FM bass, see what that's about. Same procedure. Let's just solo this track and arm it. Again, you can play that and write your own bass lines with this thing. It's not just samples. It's also instruments that you get to play around with. And this is a cool one actually, because you can see we started with a sample, and a lot of the action is happening right in the sampler instrument. Like just alone, it's like a pretty clean, very like, around the town kind of 808 sound, like not anything super special. But then as soon as you turn on this oscillator, you see what we did to add some modulation. now it's a little more interesting. It's got a little bit more flavor to it. So anyway, I hope this was enlightening to you, so you can see everything that goes into the pack. The first couple people that bought it, we kind of thought it was just samples. I said, oh man, this is, that's a problem. There's so much more going on. So they wrote us and they said, well, oh, this is really deep. There's a lot to dig into here. That made us really excited. But also, I was like, I got to make some walkthrough videos to show people everything that goes into this and everything that you get. So here it is. Hopefully this has been inspiring, exciting, and makes you want to make music. That's why we make these things. So check it out. There's more information down below on the webpage where you can see what's going on. And we hope to see you again. Thanks. Peace.